Hello and welcome to New Zealand Super Rugby Squad's Hash Rugby Chat. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind Driving Maul, and tonight I'll be talking about the New Zealand Super Rugby teams, squads. We'll also look at the players off to MLR. We'll have a quick chat about Saracens and the whole salary cap kind of thing. And also we'll be talking about European Champions Cup, European Challenge Cup a little bit as well. So, hi, I'm Paul the guy behind Driving Maul. I'm here every Monday night every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. with Hash Rugby Chat. You can also get it as a podcast as well if you prefer to listen rather than to watch. And cheers, yes, I've got my Cab Merlot here for a little drink. So, what's going on at the moment? The Heineken Champions Cup kicked off last weekend. Some interesting results. Saracens lost at the weekend, and there's a lot of talk about Saracens are going to basically concentrate on the Premiership and not put any resource or put as little resources as possible towards the European Champions Cup. I think they're going to decide that that's not a priority for them, which means we've got a good chance of getting a new champion. Or at least new from the last 9 years. Over the last 9 years, we've only had 3 winners. Saracens won it 3 times. Toulon, who are in the Challenge Cup, have won it 3 times. And then Leinster have won it 3 times as well. So maybe they will get a new face, different than the last 9 years. I think is good for rugby and good for the tournament. It keeps the old interest there. So look out for that. As I say, that will be it will be interesting to see how that all pans out. The Challenge Cup also kicked off, or what I like to call the Lottery Cup, because from a picker's point of view, you never know how teams are going to treat it and whether they're going to treat it seriously or not. Good evening to everyone who is in the live chat. Hi Simon, how are you doing? And yes, any questions or comments you want to put in there, please feel free to do so. Yeah, obviously I'll try and answer as many questions as we go along as I can. So, Saracens have not asked for a review of their fine for breaching the salary cap for 3 years. And they've said it's for rugby and all that kind of reasons. And yes, I can understand the why people have decided to, why they have decided not to challenge it. It could take months, which would be very disruptive for rugby in the UK, but it also be very, very disruptive for them. They wouldn't know what target they were aiming for to avoid relegation. And being as they are now on minus 22 points and 26 points behind Leicester Tigers, who are in 11th place, you can see they've got an awful lot of catching up to do. If you take off the number of points that they've been deducted this season of their last 3 seasons, they would not have been relegated in any of those years. So, look, they've got the squad, they've got the players to avoid relegation, and I think that is what will actually happen. I know a lot of people are saying that they're going to be facing relegation at some point, and maybe it will come down to the last few weeks of the year. But as I say, they have a very good record, finishing basically the top 2 for the last several seasons. So you've got to say that they're unlikely to get relegated. So even though there is lots of talk that they have basically abandoned Europe as a real target this season, I think they could have fought on 2 fronts. I think they still can do. Obviously, losing in their opening game to Racing 92 hasn't helped, and they have got who have they got next up? Ospreys this weekend. So they're going to win that one, whoever they put out, to be honest, because Ospreys have been an absolute mess this season, not helped by the fact that their existence was being called into question last year, so they couldn't. Their difficulty planning and recruiting for this season. I know at least one player that was in their squad they couldn't guarantee him a contract, so he came over to New Zealand, played over here in some club rugby, and then got picked up by Leicester Tigers. So they definitely haven't been able to organise their squad as they want to. They've then been hit by lots of injuries, which means that basically they're in a right old mess, unfortunately. So yes, all a bit there. Great to hear that the audio is going well. So at the moment, for those of you who know me, I'm up in Auckland helping to paint a house that I'm looking at selling, so that get my life back on track. But which does mean we have got fibre tonight, which is good. So hopefully we won't have any of the technical issues we've had for the previous years. So a lot of people have been asking though, how can Saracens now be under the cap if they weren't before? Well, what's basically happened is they've always been, from a club point of view, under the actual cap. So which has kind of been interest. So which hasn't been a problem for them. The problem has been their co-investments between Nigel Wray, there, the owner, and various players. Now, first off, there was an admin issue, or what they call an admin issue, which meant that these weren't reported, and that Saracens, the club entity, wasn't aware of these. Now that's been fixed, which also meant that they weren't reporting these co-investments to the salary manager. What has been nice to see has come out over last night, my time anyway, was Nigel Wray, a statement from the club from Nigel Wray, saying that they recognise the mistake, that they should have gone to the salary manager and checked and talked and discussed what they were planning on doing before they did it, rather than just going ahead and doing it. And that's the reckless part of it. So hence that's why they've been caught for reckless breach rather than a deliberate breach. Now, proving that they were deliberately trying to breach it is very difficult to do. So the owner, so it really is that they have that. So also say, look, the panel acknowledge we didn't deliberately breach it. They acknowledge there's no proof that they deliberately breached it. It's slightly different, but they were definitely reckless at the very least, if it wasn't deliberate. So it's good to see that Saracens actually come out and made a statement now saying that they realise they made a mistake, which is good because hopefully that means they'll learn from it and not do it again. Unfortunately, the problem is that we've seen them have problems with salary caps, or rumoured to have problems with salary caps before, but obviously no one was actually mentioned in that one. People are saying, oh, well, look, we want to see the details now. Well, no, you're not going to see the details. But what Nigel Wray has said in his statement was that, look, the salary cap we were within, the bits that we're getting fined for is these co-investments. So basically, if they stop doing the co-investments or stop adding it to the co-investments, they don't have to unwind them, then they basically will automatically be back within the cap, because the main payments are all within the cap. So basically the off book, or the off Saracens books on Nigel Wray's books, payments or investments have to stop, and that puts them in the cap. It'll be interesting to see what response the players who have those arrangements with Nigel Wray feel like after this. With you're talking about your Vunipolas, Wigglesworth, Farrell, those are the players. There might be a couple of others, but so yes. But it looks like, look, the basically the Saracens thing, they've decided to draw a line under it and move on from here. So hope fans and commentators won't. Let's be honest, but let's hope that they do. It should die down now over the next couple of weeks. You'd think, until we come towards the end of the season. Now, some people have suggested, hey, look, if Saracens manage to play well enough not to get relegated, then the team that's at the bottom should not be relegated. Well, then basically what you're saying is the team in the Championship, most likely Newcastle Falcons, shouldn't get promoted, which is wrong. Now, look, however the table finishes at the end of the year, the bottom team has to get relegated. Simon does make a good point that if Saracens were to go ahead and win the Champions Cup, then they would have automatically qualify for the next season's Champions Cup. I think actually it's that the league gets an extra place and they get to choose how to allocate it, and it's recommended it goes to champions. So I think they could basically allocate it elsewhere if Saracens were to get relegated, and how they get around that issue of them being in the Championship. And also qualifying for the Champions Cup, which would be a bit strange, wouldn't it? The relegated team being in the Champions Cup would be a bit of a laugh. But there you go. That's how I think they would get rid of that. Jordan, you're quite right. Yes, I do have a better internet connection tonight. So thank you. Glad to have you along as well. Yep, Nocturnal Rights are there as well. And hey, Stephen, yourself. So let's have a quick look at the world rankings before we head into talking about some of the transfer talk that's been happening. Obviously, the top 10 haven't changed. Those teams won't be playing each other, or no, there will be no games for the top 10 teams until the Six Nations next year at the earliest. But we still have had movements in the world rankings. So congratulations to Hong Kong, who have jumped 3 places from 24th to 21st in the global rankings. And LTU, Lithuania, I think, maybe, for that one, who have dropped from 40th down to 44th. So they're big movers this last week in the whole standings. One team or a couple of teams that are in there is that Hong Kong have leaped above teams like Canada and Namibia, who obviously were in the Rugby World Cup and didn't get to play each other, unfortunately. So Hong Kong has now jumped above those two teams who were at the Rugby World Cup. So that's obviously a good sign for Hong Kong, which I know have got a professional, have contracted all their international play, all their national players, and are looking to do that. Next up, let's have a look at some of the players that are going to be in Major League Rugby next year, and we'll head over at some. Let's get my face out of the way and look at some of the interesting transfers. So Rugby Atlanta, or ATL, are a new team in Major League Rugby, hence you've not seen any players on the way out there. And they've had, let's be honest, some fairly modest signings in there. Harley Davidson from Glendale Raptors is a good signing. He's been playing well for them. And there's a splattering of other players from major league teams. So our Saracens, just asking in there, are Saracens accepting they cheated? Saracens are accepting the findings and the fine. Yes, they are no longer going to appeal the matter, or ask for a review, or appeal the matter. They're going to pay the fine and take the points hit, is what they've said they're going to do. So yes, a number of teams and a couple of players in there, Canadian players back from teams in England. But so yeah, Harley Davidson's probably the highest profile signing there. The Austin Herd, now, who used to be called Austin Elite, so changed their names. We've got a couple of teams that have changed their names in this one. You can see quite a long list there of players on the way out. Looking at the players that have come in, Frank Kalai is probably one of the names that most people, probably the most famous name there. But a couple of players over, or one player in there from Fiji Drua, or from the NRC, and a couple of other players moving around. But Roland Siniula, a bit of a surprise there. He's been with Seattle from the beginning, so moved, and I thought his family were up there as well. So he's also moving down to Austin. Austin Elite had a really tough time last season, so they've renamed themselves the Herd. Where we've got the Colorado Raptors, better known as Glendale Raptors, last year, and historically now, again, a bunch of players out back here. Players like Sean Davies, Will McGee, who you might have heard from at the Rugby World Cup. Harley Davidson have already talked about moving out. So quite a few people there. But looking at some of these players that are coming in, Digby Ioane, wow, there's a blast from the past. Rennie Ranger, also in there now, a player who's suffered with lots of injuries. There's a bit of talk him going to the Crusaders this season, but it looks like he's off to the USA. Thomas Quaylin as well is coming in at fly half. So some interesting signings in there. Zembi Tibeta, probably and a couple of people from the from the French academies down here as well. They're also picking up a couple of players from Australia, from New Zealand's Minor 10 Cup, which is why you're looking at the Bay of Plenty, looking at trying to get themselves a Global Rapid Rugby team, which would fit also in this one as well. So, but Nick Boyer was a good player for Legion, but Digby Ioane and Rennie Ranger are going to be obviously the two guys who are going to be getting in the limelight. Another couple of players, let's be honest, towards the end of their career, or even past or at the end of their career, if they were in New Zealand or Australia. But it'll be interesting to see what I think there'll be more use off the pitch, and the professionalism that they'll bring, rather than actually getting that much game time out of them but a couple of interesting players there. Old Glory DC and a new side for Major League Rugby. They did have an exhibition season last season, which is why you'll see there's a player there who has left. Looking down here, what they've done, Danny Tusitala from Auckland, the bleached hair, had a chat with him during the Mitre 10 Cup season. Has come over, and Jason Robertson. They've got themselves a couple of players from the Mitre 10 Cup, but on the whole, if you look at this from the Sabercats, from Austin Elite, Seattle Seawolves, Glendale Raptors, Houston Sabercats, they've got themselves some players in here who've got Major League Rugby experience, which is what they're going to need this season, let's be honest, being one of the expansion teams. Now, at least they've had that exhibition season. The ATL, Rugby ATL, or if it's the Atlanta team, hasn't. But it's going to be, it's not the big names here for Old Glory. And I don't think the expansion team is going to have that many big names that we would recognise necessarily moving around. Quick down here on Houston, obviously Leicester Tigers might recognise Zach Godfrey, Leicester Tiger fans from there. We've got, again, more players from Tim Calderwool, Boyd Williams from the Mitre 10 Cup as well, heading over there to Houston. They've lost players like Paul Mullen, who was going to be a big loss for them at prop. But again, not big signings. We're going to have to get down to the when we get down to New York, you'll see that we'll have some down there. New England Free Jacks, again, another team that is an expansion side but had an exhibition season last season. And again, another team that's reached out to Hawke's Bay for the Mitre 10 Cup for a player, Liam Steele from Bay of Plenty as well. So bringing lots of experience over from here, and then also again having a look around those sort of Austin, mainly players from within Major League Rugby there. I think the Free Jacks had an okay team already, squad for that exhibition season, so that's how they've gone. New Orleans Gold, one of the more settled sides, as you can see there. Cullen Kolopai from the Sharks, Carl Meyer from Dragons. Their top two guys there, nothing too big names. But when we get down to Rugby United New York, here we are. Mathieu Bastareaud has come over for a season from Toulon. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. Cormac Daly from Connacht as well is in there. But yeah, Bastareaud is going to be probably the headline, or is the headline transfer of this season now. See how he'll be obviously, or probably pairing up with Ben Foden, the ex-England international, in that midfield. So Rooney, yes, are going to have a team. If they can get a platform, they're going to have some players there who can cause some damage. Even though Bastareaud had a pre-season game with one of the French teams, I've gone blank, so it was now, playing number 8. So yeah, maybe someone that he might get some time in the back row. We'll see. If we then look at San Diego Legion, whilst Bastareaud might be the highest profile one, there's perhaps some in here that are actually going to be more interesting for Legion. Dominic Day used to be used to help run the I've gone blank. The Players Association, Rugby Players Association in the UK as part of that. So obviously a man who knows will offer a lot of advice and help around the tide. Stefan Armitage, previous European Player of the Year. Mar Nonu down here as well. Over 100 caps for the All Blacks. San Diego have gone out shopping a bigger time. If you look at that. Luke Burton also from Biarritz. So again, players playing at a high level. So it'll be interesting to see Stefan Armitage's contract terminated. Hang on, see whether he's actually still there. But yeah, you've got so San Diego Legion clearly looking at going one better than they did last season when they made it to the final and lost out to Seattle Seawolves. But Chris Eves also in there. Now, I thought he was there last season as well, or was he at one of the other MLR teams? This is from the Hurricanes, though. So, yeah, they've got themselves together a number of decent players here for San Diego, and look out for them I say, to try and go one better next season. Seattle, 2 times reigning champions. Again, they've gone out and got some decent players. Look, from the Cheetahs, the Griquas, a couple of guys from South Africa, Counties Manukau. So again, they've Bedford Blues, Ulster. All these guys are coming in with professional rugby experience at a decent level. Sure, Bedford Blues is the second tier in England, but Ulster top tier in Ireland. Cheetahs and Griquas in that top or middle or second tier in South Africa. So look, some decent players there. That Tim Metcher was actually there last year, and he went back to counties and then has come back. So yeah, some I think I've got an interview with Tim on the channel somewhere, so you can check that out. Toronto Arrows, again, a new obviously the Canadian side, and obviously bringing in back some Canadian players, and if perhaps not got the high profile or the quality of the signings of some of the other countries, to be honest. Utah Warriors, Utah always had a very sort of Pacific Island feel to them, and here we've got Fijians and Tongans and Samoan all joining the side. So unsurprisingly, there, and that they've gone out to that side. Then also a bunch of young Americans from university. So it looks like they're building from youth upwards, which is good for Utah. I wouldn't expect them to go to challenge that far into this tournament, to be honest with you. But interesting seeing players like Bastareaud, Nonu, Dominic Day, perhaps not as high profile as others, but I say he's played a lot. He's come from Saracens. He's played a lot of high level rugby. A few of these other players trying their hand here. Some of them, when you look at some of the Minor 10 Cup players, they aren't actually that old. So it's not just guys going towards the end of their careers. It's some of the guys who are earlier in their careers as well, taking those extra skills across. But expect a step up for Major League Rugby next year, because as I say, there are some interesting signings there. I'll be keeping track of it. Also, we're going to have a conference, an East and West conference next year, as they expand with their 3 new teams, I think it is. So yeah, expect. Oh, is it 4 new? We've got anyway, it doesn't matter. A bunch of new teams as well. So all really looking forward to how Major League Rugby goes forward. Now, it all looks good. It all looks like it's smelling of roses. Now there have been some rumours that one of the teams is considering folding, and that 3 of the teams haven't paid their funds for this season. I heard that a while back. Now, perhaps everything isn't. Look, it's a new league. They are going to have hiccups along the way. It isn't going to be plain sailing the whole time. But on the whole, it is heading in the right direction. But I would expect there to be some negative news at some point in this. It isn't going to be perfect the whole way. Right then, folks, time to have a look at. He says, there we go, at the New Zealand squads, how they've changed things up, and what we might see from those teams. Let's kick off with the Blues, as we'll do it in alphabetical order. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat for those of you that are with me around this one. But I've got to say, the Blues losing a bunch of experience, but let's once they didn't actually in players like we've got sort of Nanai, Sonny Bill Williams, Nonu, Michael Collins has been there for quite a while. Augustin Pulu, All Black Sevens player. Scott Scrafton's been there for a few years. So using, I say, a bunch of players who, a bunch of experience from this squad. Is that a bad thing? Maybe not for the Blues, as they haven't actually performed that well. So perhaps there is needed a bit of a clear out. The problem is, though, is some of those players who have gone have the right people gone. Was Matt Moulds the right person to go? Were they better off? Were they better keeping James Parsons, or did they let the wrong one go and keep the wrong person? That is open to question. So yeah, Kurt Eklund, coming from Bay of Plenty, obviously had a good season there. So that's going to be an interesting one. James Tucker coming in, a player that a lot of people in Waikato thought should have got a Super Rugby contract last season, and he will definitely bring a bit of mongrel to this side. And whilst it might look like they've only got Ikiri Iwani, remember Hoskins, Sotutu, finished the season at number 8 for the Blues, playing very well. So, look, it's going to be a decent pack, but they're going to be reliant on various players. They need Carl Twinner-Caffey and Ofa Tu'ungafasi to step up and really provide that solid scrummaging, which perhaps was missing at times last year. As Tom Wright said, yeah, Big Carl is key for the Blues when he got his conditioning. And there's got to be some question marks around the conditioning that we're seeing from the Blues, because look, Carl didn't look great. We then also had Akira Ioane also looking tired and out on his feet towards the end of the season. So, yeah, it might not be the playing staff that need to alter at the Blues. There's so much getting that that conditioning better. A bit surprised that Jordan Traynor has been dropped, to be honest. And interesting to see Stephen Perofeta down as a fullback rather than a fly half. Obviously, he can play there as well. But with Beauden Barrett, Terry Black, Harry Plummer, and even Jack Hayton in there as well, that's a lot of talent at first five in that 10 jersey. Rieko Ioane, lots of talk about him moving in to the centres. Bit of surprise that Levi Amua didn't get a contract, but they've then gone and signed Joe Marchant, who from England, who was here for a season. Now, great experience for Joe Marchant, but yeah, got to feel a bit sad for Levi Amua there. With the loss of Melani Nanai, with Caleb Clark away with the Sevens, we're looking at a pretty thin or very new back three amongst these players. Obviously, Jared Page in there. Jordan Highland had a good season with the Highlanders, and obviously from Northland as well. Nawaya had a really good season with Bay of Plenty. Picked up a hat trick in one of the games from memory. And Mark Tillis. There's some quality there. It's, are they going to be able to harness them? But getting that conditioning right, not getting distracted by the fact that Beauden Barrett's going to arrive halfway through the season, those I think could be key things for this side, more than the actual necessarily the names that are coming or going. Coming down to the Chiefs, and in some ways the most important name isn't amongst the players, but it's amongst the coaches, isn't it? Colin Cooper, replaced by Warren Gatland, is going to be key for them. I didn't actually see it myself, but had a coffee with a mate this morning who said that there were 10 or so Chiefs players out training today, including players like Dane McKenzie and Sam Cane as well. So some players. So interesting that they're already out on that on the pitch. Nocturnal Rights, I still think the halves are weak point for the Blues. Yeah, scrum half is definitely going to be a weak point for them, and how much will Beauden Barrett play? We'll have to wait and see. So interesting that they're already out there running around. So yeah, we'll see whether that was that a leadership group that got together, or was that some sort of early pre-season fitness testing? We obviously don't know. Kane Hames has called it a day. We pretty much expected that, as he didn't we didn't see him all last season, which is a real shame that injury has got the better of him. It's good to see. Interesting to see Samasoni gets a bit of a run out. Has been playing well for Waikato. His arrows sometimes can be a bit dodgy, but obviously the other person they're going to miss big time is Brody Retallick, who is taking that sabbatical. You can say in the locks, they are perhaps looking a little bit light with Allardyce, Ardron, and McWhalen being joined by Arkoi, because remember that Allardyce, Allardyce or Ardron, one of those two, anyway, spent quite a lot of time playing at 8 last season. So got to be a little bit worried about that. Mitch Jacobson has returned to Waikato, will be playing club rugby here. It's not going to be far away, but it'll be interesting to see if he comes back as well. He had a really good Mitre 10 Cup, obviously being overshadowed by his brother Luke Jacobson, who are looking at pushing on. With Sam Cane, Luke Jacobson, Mitch, Lachlan Bashir, the 6 and 7, they have, pardon me, got plenty about them. Just my main question mark is going to be around the locks and number 8 as to whether they've got that there for their forwards. Going into the into the backs, obviously with Triple T and Brad Weber, they're absolutely fine in the scrum half. Aaron Cruden and Caleb Trask coming in. So two guys. Caleb Trask had a really good season with Bay of Plenty. With Ty and Falcon there, that's going to free up Damon McKenzie to play at 15. Let's be honest. So it's good to see, Dylan Nell. Then suggesting maybe he'll come into that 8 role as a ball carrying 8. Maybe we'll have to see. It's you've they've got plenty of experience. Aaron Cruden brings experience. Ty Falcon and Caleb Trask bring young exuberance into that first 5-8. Plenty of good play at the scrum half, so they're going to be led around the field fine. Interesting to see that Nankerville has stuck around, and that also, when looking at this list, you've got Balin Sullivan in there as a centre, and Quintapaya as an outside, as a winger. I think those two the wrong way around. Quintapaya generally plays at 13, and Balin Sullivan has generally played at the wing for Waikato. But with Ledger, Antoinette Brown, Manu, Nankerville, and Quintapaya, they've got some serious power or serious strike power in that centre partnership. And then you look at the backs. We're not going to see Sam Nicol that much at fullback. Then we're going to see Dame McKenzie mainly there, but in Sean Wainui, Sean Stevenson, Nanai Satoro, they've got some guy, and Solomon Amalo. They've got players who have all proven themselves at this level. Kini Naholo, well, we're going to see how he is. I've not seen much of him, to be honest. He's been playing at Taranaki for the past couple of seasons. I have been trying to keep an eye on him. The problem is he's been injured the whole time. Younger brother of Waisaki Naholo, and I have seen him play occasionally, but I've seen him much more in a moon boot than I have actually seen him playing, which is a real shame. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. But yeah, you've got to say that squad with a coach like Warren Gatland really could go places. And I think there's a lot of people excited in Hamilton for next season. Looking at the Crusaders, well, generally the side that is the most stable has the fewest number of people coming in, but having lost players like Owen Franks, Tim Perry, Ben Fennell, they've lost some experience there and depth. But you've got to say they've got quality players in that front row. Losing Sam Whitelock, their captain, and also a lock is a big loss for them. But when you look at that and go, hey, they've still got Scott Barrett, Mitchell Dunshea, Luke Romano, and Quinton Strange in there, being joined by Grace. Those 4 players, the first 4 I mentioned there, are all quality operators at this level. Really no problems at all. Losing Jordan Tafua, Matt Todd, and Kieran Reid, again, it's just about more leadership is going. At that point, let's be honest, Matt Todd's been around forever. Kieran Reid also there. But with Fetu Douglas, they've got a good 8. Perhaps some question marks around depth. But the real problem is going to be that replacement for Matt Todd and Billy Harmon, I think ex-under-20s captain. We're looking at for him to really step up in that role. Ethan Blackadder was playing really well in that 6 jersey. So I don't expect much of a drop off there. Mitchell Hunt's headed off, but hey, he's gone because he's behind Richard Mwanga, and it's time for Brett Cameron, let's be honest, to step forward. Young promising player, didn't get many opportunities last season. And then from there onwards, Tim Bateman and Ryan Crotty have left, but hey, you've got Jack Goodhue, and Braden Ennell can play in there outside centre as well. So there's plenty of players options in there. If a lot of it is fairly raw with those 3 players coming in, let's say I think you might see Braden Ennell in there, David Havili also can play in the centres as well, kind of at fullback there with Will Jordan able to play at fullback. yeah, they're going to be there or thereabouts again from the Crusaders. We'll have to wait and see. Interesting comment there by John Clark. It feels like we lost more All Blacks this time around than we did after 2015 Rugby World Cup. Maybe, but the ones after 2015 Rugby World Cup were all dead cert starters with over 100 odd caps. When you think about it, when you look at McCaw, Carter, Nonu, Conrad, Smith, all disappeared, as did the Woodcock, the Mialamu. So you lost a lot of experience after 2015. So I'm not sure that we can say it's much worse this time around. But looking at that side by from the Crusaders, yeah, my only question mark is around putting that 7th jersey. Everything else looks like it's ticking along just fine down there in Christchurch. Looking at the Highlanders, now this is one where I am a lot more concerned about this team. They're losing players in just about every position down there. And by losing Ben Smith, he has been the heart and soul of this team for a long time. Obviously, an Otago boy. But losing someone like Tyrrell Lomax, I think, is going to be is going to be a big loss for them in the props. Again, losing Tom Franklin, Jackson Hemapo especially. Jackson Hemapo, another big loss for them. You look at the players they've got there: Perry Parkinson, the Jack Wetton. Okay, there's some okay players there, but yeah, not much. Not a lot of experience in those in those positions. Again, losing Luke Whitelock, Elliot Dixon, Liam Squire. We're looking at 3 guys there who, again, a lot of experience, a lot of leadership in there. And Terry Bow Nicholas played really well for Wellington, but again, and Jesse Parate is a kind of useful squad player, but you look at that list: Frizzell, Dylan Hunt are really going to have a lot of work, a lot of load on their shoulders, and we're going to see a lot of leadership come out of them, and also James Lynch's as well. Obviously, the place where they're stacked is at scrum half. Fakatava has looked really good for Hawke's Bay, and Aaron Smith obviously is absolute quality as well. So 2 players, yeah, there's no problems in there. Going to fly half, it's Josh Ioane. It's going to be his show, isn't it? It's your teammate, off you go. And then with Mitchell Hunt and Gatland, one of them, probably Mitchell Hunt mainly coming off the bench, Gatland, got to say, probably heading overseas at some point. Dan Hollinshead perhaps been a little bit unlucky with injuries, which is probably why he didn't get himself back in to this as well. Into the centres, again, you're losing experience in Buckman and Fadders. Gregory had a really good season at Northland, so not surprised to see him getting a slot. But with Thompson and Tomkinson, and Amanga Jensen and Torring and Walden, there's a good set of players there. The problem is finding the 2 that are going to be the leaders in that, because I think it's a bunch of players there who've promised but not necessarily nailed it down consistently. Rob Thompson 2 seasons ago was great. Last season struggled a bit. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in there. And then you come to your back 3, losing Tavita Lee, Naholo, Ben Smith, arguably your starting back 3. They had to play Fadders on the wing at times and the other centre on the wing last season. So really not a surprise we've got 5 back 3 players coming in here. Nariki from Otago, really exciting person. Not sure if he's away with the Sevens, but absolute really exciting player for Otago. Really looking forward to see him playing. But Chris Kurandrani from the Counties, well, he's not a fullback, he's a winger. So he's in the wrong spot here. But to me, looked promising pre-season, didn't deliver much during the season. So really a bit worried about some of the recruitment here for Highlanders. I think they're going to struggle, but we say that about them quite a lot. Well, here is a team with lots of players who we don't recognise the names of, or aren't big names, but they tend to put it together Aaron Major, though, has got a massive job on his hands with them. Into the Hurricanes, and well, lost a couple of players. Tamanga Allen, Eves. Well, Eves going to San Diego Legion is probably more about him not getting a super contract, in all honesty. Ross had a good season for Bay of Plenty. He'll be available if they want to. If he hasn't retired, he was talking about, wasn't sure that he was going to continue next year or not. But Toby Smith has. But bringing in Lomax, that's a really good signing. Scott Sprafton from the Blues, get a bigger player in. That's going to be useful because your Liam Mitchells quite often plays 6, but a lightweight lock, but a really good guy and a decent player as well. But they're going to need that weight up front to get that platform. And let's be honest, Hayden Bedell-Curtis went through a lot of work from them last season, so that's going to have to be replaced. But if you look at players like Karifi, Fafita, Evans, also you got Princep and Ardie Surveyor, Karifi, Evans. You've got a really decent back three with Fafita and Princep in there to replace it. So look, there's quality there. The real question is, can that front five, which hasn't changed that much, Lomax, really good signing, but apart from him, not much change there. Can they get that platform? And that's always been the question mark around them. Finley Christie and Richard Judd have both headed off, but Jamie Booth, what a great signing, to be honest. Played really well for the Sunwolves, was one of the few shining lights for Manawa 2 this season. He'll be a great backup to TJ Perenara, and they're going to need two really experienced scrum halves because they're going to have a really inexperienced fly half outside in that 10 jersey. Bodin Barrett, he's the big loss for this team. Jackson, you've got Golden Bishop, James Marshall, Fletcher Smith. Which one of those is going to be able to tie down that number 10 jersey? You'd hope it would be Fletcher Smith, but we will have to see about that. You'd hope the young guy would. Matt Proctor's gone, fine, but you've got Lamapi, Tuala, Amanga Jensen. You've also got Asso, Billy Proctor, who obviously promises much for that big contract he's got. Geordie Barrett would like to play in the centres. Wes Houston, Ben Lamb, and Chase Tiatia. I mean, look, this back line, if given the right platform, should score lots and lots of points. The question is, will that front five stand up, and will that first 5-8 be able to unleash these backs? Because there are, as I say, lots of points in them. So there you go. I'm concerned about the Highlanders. I'm not that sure about what the Blues are going to do, but the Chiefs look really tasty. The Crusaders will be as good as they've always been, and the Hurricanes, well, they could, if they get the platform instead, they could also have the makings of a championship team as well. So three sides to be really excited about in the New Zealand Conference. I think two bit more question marks around them. Are there unlucky players to miss out? Yes, there are. I mean, Amua is one of those in the centres, and with Marshall getting that slot over on loan from the UK. It's really going to be. I'm really interested to see him play, but I can see how Amua will be a little bit upset. Let's be honest. There was lots of talk going into the week that this happened, that there was going to be a Saracens player coming to the Crusaders. We haven't seen that happen, looking at the list of players coming in. So knows if something, if we might get a mid-season thing, or if there's an injury, we'll have to wait and see. Or maybe the whole salary cap thing has changed the picture of what Saracens were going to allow or release a player to them. Any player that's obviously gone back to the Mitre 10 Cup level and hasn't got the super contract, you're going to feel it's tough on them and what they're going to do. but yeah, you got to say, yeah, Moore's the one big one I think has missed out. So thank you everybody for watching. Been a great show as always. Don't forget, next Tuesday at 8 p.m. and also tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I'll be joined by Stephen Harris as we go over the All Blacks depth chart in that one. And yeah, hopefully things are returning back to normal, even if I don't have internet connection still in my home in Hamilton. But yeah, hopefully we'll get things back to normal and running pretty sweet.